Good morning, class. Kindly stand up for our opening prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good morning once again. How are you today? Okay, very good. So kindly pick up some pieces of paper, arrange your chairs, and sit properly. Say present when your name is called. Chloe, present. Kyle, present. Glenn, okay, present. So very good, all of you are present. What was our topic yesterday? Who can still remember? Yes? Okay, very good. Our topic yesterday was about the Commonwealth government. So today, before we proceed to our new lesson, we will have an activity. So I will show you a picture and then you will carefully observe what's in the picture. Understand? Okay, very good. So, what have you observed in the picture? Yes? Okay, people were harassed and abused. What else? Yes? Okay, very good. People were forced to work. What else? Okay, very good. Some people were killed. So, what do you think this image implies? Yes? Okay, very good. This image implies colonization. So what do you think are the purpose of colonization? Yes? Okay, very good. To strengthen military base. What else? Okay. To profit by exploiting the human and natural resources of the countries. Okay, very good. So today, we will be discussing about the Philippines under the Japanese military. So here are our objectives. At the end of the lesson, 95% of you are expected to: number 1, discuss main purpose of Japan in its conquest to the Philippines. Number 2, identify the impacts of Japanese invasion to the Philippines. And number 3, point out the contribution of Japanese colonization in the Philippine literature. The Philippines under the Japanese military. The invasion of the Philippines started on 8 December 1941, 10 hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor. As at Pearl Harbor, American aircraft were severely damaged in the initial Japanese attack. Lacking air cover, the American Asiatic Fleet in the Philippines withdrew to Java on 12 December 1941. General Douglas MacArthur was ordered out, leaving his men at Corregidor on the night of 11 March 1942 for Australia, 4,000 kilometers away. The 76,000 starving and sick American and Filipino defenders in Bataan surrendered on 9 April 1942 and were forced to endure the infamous Bataan Death March, on which 7,000 to 10,000 died or were murdered. The 13,000 survivors on Corregidor surrendered on 6 May. Japan occupied the Philippines for over 3 years, until the surrender of Japan. A highly effective guerrilla campaign by the Philippine resistance forces controlled 60% of the islands, mostly jungle and mountain areas. MacArthur supplied them by submarine and sent reinforcements and officers. Filipino remained loyal to the United States, partly because of the American guarantee of independence and also because of the Japanese had pressed a large numbers of Filipinos into work details and put young Filipino women into brothels. General MacArthur kept his promise to return to the Philippines on 20 October 1944. The landings on the islands of Leyte were accompanied by a force of 700 vessels and 174,000 men. Through December 1944, the islands of Leyte and Mindoro were cleared of Japanese soldiers. During the campaign, the Imperial Japanese Army conducted a suicidal defense of the islands. Cities such as Manila were reduced to rubble, and around 500,000 Filipinos died during the Japanese occupation period. So, during the Japanese period, a lot of abuses, harassments, killings happen in the Philippines, and also there are a lot of physical destructions wherein some buildings were damaged and destroyed, and almost 500,000 Filipino died, and it was General MacArthur who supplied a submarines and military equipments to Filipinos, and also other reinforcement to help the Philippines na capture again the country from the Japanese. So the Japanese planned to occupy the Philippines as part of their plan for a Greater East Asia War, in which their Southern Expeditionary Army Group seized sources of raw materials in Malaya and the Netherlands East Indies, while the combined fleet neutralized the United States Pacific Fleet. During the Japanese period, Philippine literature in English was stopped, and writers turned to writing in Filipino. The Japanese authorities, with extreme hate to the Americans, did their best to turn the Filipino sympathy away from them. They rewarded handsomely the Filipinos who are faithful to them. With the prohibition of writing literary pieces in English language, Filipino literature was given a break. Many Filipino writers wrote plays, poems, short stories, etc. in the Tagalog and other vernacular language. Topics and themes were often about life in the provinces to escape Japanese control and censorship. So, okay, we will have a group activity. So, group yourselves into 5 and draw in a Manila paper a scenario of Japanese occupation in the Philippines. Discuss your output in front of the class. So, okay, I'll give you 15 minutes to draw, and after you draw, then present your output in front of the class. Okay, go to your groups now and do your work silently. Okay, are you done? Okay, very good. So present your drawings or outputs in front of the class. Okay, very good. All outputs are very creative and very comprehensive. So let us clap our hands for ourselves. So can we go back to your respective chairs? Okay, thank you. So what year Japanese occupied the Philippines? From 1941 to 1945. So what is the main purpose of Japan in its conquest of the Philippines? Okay, the Japanese planned to occupy the Philippines as part of their plan for a Greater East Asia War. They want to strengthen their military base and seize raw materials. Okay, what are the impacts of Japanese invasion to the Philippines? Okay, the Philippines had suffered great loss of life and tremendous physical destruction by the time the war was over. An estimated 500,000 Filipinos, both military and civilians, had been killed from all causes. So, what is the contribution of Japanese colonization in the Philippine literature? Okay, Philippine literature in English was stopped, and the writers turned writing into, okay, very good, Filipino. So, Filipino literature was given a break. Many Filipino writers wrote plays, poems, short stories, etc. in Tagalog and other vernacular language. So, is there any other question, clarification? Okay, none so far. So, there's no question. Kindly answer this one. 14 minutes. Okay, are you done? Okay, very good. So, kindly pass your papers in front. Okay. So, here is our agreement. Read in advance page 97 to 100 for our next discussion. So, okay, that's end our discussion for today. Goodbye, class. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.